But what could AI mean to you? So I made a list this morning. I went back through all the AI work that I had been doing over the last week. And I thought I would share with you some of the ways that I have used AI in the last 7 days. I had to stop at about 33 items. I used it to brainstorm ideas for a new product name. I used it to write an awkward email. I created 45 Excel formulas, which was amazing. I proofread an ebook, write a LinkedIn post. I wrote another awkward email. I recorded all of my meetings and had them transcribed and summarized with action items so that I could share those out to my prospect. I converted all of my screen captures into a table. So I did a screen scrape or a screen capture of LinkedIn data and had it turn it all into a table. I generated 20 blog ideas, did a cultural analysis, including testing my content and jokes to see if they would work in Malaysia. They don't. I planned an itinerary for my travel while I was going to be in Asia. I wrote some feedback for an employee. I created a YouTube trivia test for my husband. I created I checked a spot on my dog, took a picture of a weird bump on my dog and put it through AI to see what was going on there. I generated a mind map of a topic, wrote a requirements document, wrote another awkward email. I have a lot of those. Summarized a book that I was thinking about reading but wanted to make sure I hadn't read it before. I did research on dog-friendly patios in the Denver metropolitan area, so I know where I could go with my friend and her dog. I created a Dungeons & Dragons game that I could play while I was at the airport because I am a nerd. I turned math into animals so that my daughter could better understand a math concept. I researched sign regulations for a company who wanted to be able to help their buyers understand what size LED and LCD signs they could put up. I wrote another awkward email. I did some tax analysis. I came up with dog diet options because one of my dog is packing a few extra pounds. I got some logo and color palette ideas. I created a survey to send out to some prospects. I tested an analogy to see if it made any sense. It did not. I made a HTML signature for my email. I analyzed and updated my AI policy. I wrote another email, because I like to write emails with that, and I did some channel messaging for a new product that I'm launching. And that's all just within the last 7 days, and that's not even a comprehensive list. It's a lot of potential and opportunity when you think about all the different ways. And in fact, the question shouldn't always be, gosh, I wonder where we can use AI. It's much more about, I wonder if AI could help me do this thing right now, every single step of every single day, to see where can AI fit into the policy. So that takes us to our very first activity. Now, in front of you, you have a beautifully printed and bound workbook. Allow me to demonstrate the beautifully printed and bound workbook. And if you turn in the workbook, a lot of what I'm talking about is being summarized here for you. But if you go to the slide kind of picture where it talks about, we are looking for the page that says Activity 1, Envision the Future. Envision the future. So with all of that background information and hopefully a little bit of inspiration to go with it, what I would love to challenge you to do is we're going to take 5 minutes and you're going to get a chance to sit down and think about what is today's world like in a particular area and what could it be like in an AI-empowered future? What is the future of that? So here we've got, for example, today's experience around prospect and customer communication. What does that look like today for a prospect to communicate with your organization? And what could it look like in an AI-enhanced world? So we're going to give you 5 minutes to do that, and then everybody can kind of work on their own for 5 minutes. And then 5 minutes, you're going to pair up and kind of discuss, compare, and contrast what you've come up with, and we're going to see what we come up with from the end of that. Any questions before we begin? Excellent. The timer starts now. You have 5 minutes. you know what I would love for you to do is actually, let's just take a minute and kind of like discuss it with your neighbor and pick out what you think might be like one big fundamental change. And then we'll talk about it as a group. So as you go back through your list, kind of compare and contrast. Did you come up with the same things? Did you come up with something different? We're going to shorten this up just a little bit to keep things moving nice and smooth. So go ahead and take just like a minute and a half to discuss it with your neighbor. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up the conversation in the group. And what I'd love to hear, and we have a microphone here to make sure that anybody who speaks can be heard by the people that are online as well. So what was something that you think is going to be fundamentally different than it is today? Can somebody share an area where they think there's going to be a big change and what that looks like today versus in the future? Carolyn?
Thanks, Julie. I have an offering that is no longer valid. So I've made tons of money on it for years, where I would go in and work with CEOs and record them. It used to be bringing in a whole team back 20 years ago to record their policies and procedures with their HR person, with their accounting person, with the CEO. And then I went to just recording them on a smartphone, which I thought was free, but they still had to call me. Now they can make an avatar of themselves, put in their policies and procedures. They no longer have to hire me. Yep. This is such a bummer to help them with that anymore. It doesn't have to happen anymore. That's a whole service offering that is no longer valid.
Right. I think that's a great, that is a perfect example. One of the things that we're seeing, actually interesting from an industry perspective, is that new products can spin up much faster than they ever have been able to in the past. We're seeing that constantly now with new software applications coming out, things like that. Even within an industry or within an organization, we're going to see new products that end of life, right? That this product doesn't exist anymore. What I would challenge you on is the opportunity to how do you leverage AI to turn that into a new product. So it isn't just about end-of-lifing a product. Now it's about how can I leverage AI to create products that didn't exist before. Like, for example, we have an AI product that we're in the midst of developing right now that helps to write AI policies and procedures, an AI playbook for businesses. So now, instead of like, here's a template, fill in the blanks, now it's, hey, answer these 5 questions, and it will automatically generate your policies and procedures for you. So what could you be doing in order to embrace and leverage that AI technology to help them come up with the script that they need to do that? So the questions remain the same. What do they need to do right before you and right after you? And that's where you add the most value. And becoming that resource, that person who knows how to do it. Because again, it isn't about the technology, it's about the information and knowing how to use the technology. The person who knows how to use the technology is always in demand. What's another one that anybody would be willing to share? Who's willing to share one more? Voila. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Julie. The speed and consistency with which you're able to respond to clients and prospects, and actually the consistency with which you're able to reach out to them with relevant communication and information, and then the speed with which you're able to respond and not reliant on a human's calendar and a human's knowledge base, like having this AI that can go out and search all relevant information that may have changed yesterday.
Yes.
And give accurate response and timely responses.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful example. Certainly when it comes to customer support and interacting with customers and prospects, one of the things that we're seeing across the board, right, is that demand for real-time, faster response and faster support has been happening for years. And now we're kind of seeing that come to fruition, like, hey, not only can you demand it, you can get it. And in many instances, you can get it better. My husband was actually worked for Xero in their support department. And so he provided customer support to Xero customers, which is a small business financial accountancy software platform. And it always fascinated me that everybody was limited to the knowledge that they already had or that they could find. Right? They had to know what to search for if they didn't know the answer, and they were still limited there. Now what we're seeing, of course, is that they're embedding AI into that. And part of that is that there was always an expectation, particularly with clients and prospects, that they had to speak your language. They had to speak your language so that you could speak their language back to them. And that was the only way you could all get in the same language. But now they can ask the question in a million different ways. AI can say, I don't understand the question, or I think this is what you're saying. They get to interact in real time and go back and forth, not with an email chain that takes 24 to 48 hours to go back and forth, but in real time. And statistics show that somewhere around, I want to say, and I apologize for guessing at a number, I don't have it in front of me, but somewhere around 86% of people are satisfied with chatbot experiences. They are satisfied with chatbot experiences, and in fact, prefer them, in many instances, to human interactions when it comes to support and customer service, in part because they have the whole wealth of knowledge as opposed to just one person's knowledge, but also because they can interact with it in real time. So if I want support at 2:30 in the morning, I want support at 2:30 in the morning. I don't want support at 8:30 in the morning when the office opens. I want to answer the question now because this is where my business is and this is where I am right now. Carolyn, question?
I think it's fascinating, too, that businesses are giving the chatbots autonomy. For example, I had a charge on a credit card that wasn't right. And I went into the app for the bank and asked it to please take that charge off. And I knew it was a chatbot. And a second later, it said, okay, that charge has now been waived on your account statement. That was not a person who had to go to their supervisor to ask for permission. The bot had permission to take money off of my account. That is really interesting. Like they're setting up the parameters, I'm guessing, for how much
Absolutely.
They're allowing that to happen for. But wow.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, it starts to come back to this question of what requires human intervention? What actually requires human intervention? At what point is a human adding to or slowing down a process? And where do we draw the line in terms of what's the benefit versus the cost of that in order to scale and in order to support our businesses? So when we think about all the different ways that AI can imply and impact and influence what's happening, AI, absolutely, it's just this thing that you never knew you needed. We never even envisioned that technology could make these kinds of decisions short of watching it in a science fiction film. We just never imagined that science fiction would come into reality. And now that it's here, we get an opportunity to truly embrace it. So when we think about planning the adoption of AI, so that was a little bit of that section about kind of understanding the potential and the pitfalls. When we think about planning the adoption of AI and how that can impact and bring into our business and what that means for us, I'd like for you to turn back to the game that we played earlier. And in the game that we played earlier, I asked you at the very end to draw a house in the mountains. I wanted a house in the mountains. I wanted a wraparound deck. I wanted some nice trees. Go ahead and take a minute and just show that picture to the person next to you. Go ahead and show that to a friend online. Take a picture, text it to your spouse. Now, as you look at that house, I'm dying to know which one of you is asking where the Airbnb link is so that you can book this beautifully crafted, craftsman style, gorgeous mountain house. Right? Because as we think about planning the adoption of AI, the truth is that there are some things that we are exceptionally good at as people, but there are also some things that AI can do better than us and do it faster than us, with some caveats. We'll talk about what those caveats are. But this is what AI drew in roughly the same exact prompt and set of instructions that I gave you in about 2.5 seconds.
Show off.
AI is a total show-off, isn't it? Oh, such a bragger. So again, it's about looking at everything that happens in our world and deciding, am I adding value? Where is the value that I'm adding? What is that special value that I'm adding as a human to that? And where can I use AI to do the busy work? And what do you need to get better at to better leverage AI, to get better output from AI? So in my mind, I believe that I am great at a lot of things. That's what I believe. In reality, it is fundamentally different. In reality, I am great at a few things. I'm good at many, but I'm really poor at getting them all done in the course of a very busy day. So this is not an exercise in saying you're not good at stuff, so we need to offload this to AI. Rather, it's an exercise in saying you're busy and you could do everything, but if you try to do everything, you're often going to do a subpar job. You're not going to do everything well for a variety of reasons. You're not going to do everything well because we come with blockers built in. And these blockers include everything from, I actually don't know how to do that. There are things that I don't know how to do. It pains me to say that. But there are things that I don't know how to do. There are also things in your organization that your team members face and that you face that you don't do very often. And because you don't do them very often, you never stay good at them. So even if you did know how to do them, and this happens a lot with HR-related tasks, right? Writing a performance review, writing a job description, writing an onboarding plan. We don't do those often enough to stay good at it for most of us, unless that is our day-to-day job. There is a host of activities, roles, and responsibilities that you do periodically that you get rusty at. And of course, the third thing is sometimes our biggest blocker is this, that blank piece of paper. You know, the idea of, well, I've got to reach out to that prospect that didn't respond to me. What am I going to say to them? And how many times can you just hit the space bar on your computer trying to come up with some new way to ask them, hey, have you thought about going ahead and calling me back? Remember, when we get put into that time pressure and time crunch, our vision narrows, but the opportunity is that with AI, we can get an explosion of ideas. I'll give you a great example. How many of you have gone home to a partner or a best friend and you've said, hey, let's go out to dinner tonight? And they go, great, what do you fancy? And you go, I don't mind anything. Anything is fine. I'll take whatever you want. And they go, great, let's go to Hacienda, Colorado. And I'll go, oh, no, not Hacienda, no. Anything else. Okay, all right, how about we go to Cheesecake Factory? They've got a massive menu. No, not Cheesecake Factory. We just had that last week. I don't want Cheesecake Factory. Just a minute ago, I said anything is fine. But it wasn't, was it? And so the reality is that sometimes starting with something, even if it isn't right, can help you get to the place that you want to be. It's much easier for me to look at an email and go, oh, no, that's not what I meant, than it is for me to start from scratch and try to write what I meant. So the idea of using it to go from this blank page to actually something of value that you can start with and using it just to push you over the line is really, really powerful. So prioritize like a pro. This is our second exercise. So when we do prioritization, I want you to think about the idea that we all have 3 lists in our world. The first list that we have is our to-do list. And this to-do list is all the things that we have every single day on our to-do list. Remember that list I read? A lot of those were things on my to-do list, right? Oh, I've got to write this email, telling this prospect that I'm not available on the day they want me and asking them if they want to do a different day. I've got to write this email telling somebody that, they can't do X, Y, whatever it is. I have to tell my kids no in 85 different ways. So to-do lists, so writing emails, data entry, writing reports, drafting documents. Then we have our should-do list. This is our guilt list. These are all the things that we know we should do every day, or we should do, but we never get to them because we're so busy with the to-do list. And that could be everything from writing social media posts to training our staff and making sure they've got the support they need, personalizing messages, getting testimonials from our prospects and clients, doing competitive intel. All of us have probably got competitive intel on our list of things to do, right? Do we do it today? Probably not, because it's on the should-do list. Then we have a third list, and that third list is our could-do list, and this is our aspirational list. It's like, gosh, if I could wave a magic wand, here are things that I know if we did these in our business, they would make a massive difference. These are the things that would be game changers, but I can't get to them because I'm so busy with my to-dos and my should-dos. But on here, I might have things like case studies, analyzing results. I might be revamping processes, adding new capabilities, coming up with new product lines, whatever it is. So your opportunity when you think about AI is, yes, think about what AI is good at, but also think about what AI is not good at. So as you're thinking about your to-do lists or your do lists, it's figuring out where's the balance exist between where technology can aid me versus where technology will hold me back or limit me. So for example, if I was to ask ChatGPT how to make a cup of tea, I could end up with a completely useless answer that talks to me all about needing to plant a tree and harvest some leaves. Or I might want to get research done about legislative changes for my industry, but when I go out and do research, it tells me that it doesn't have current information. Or, as we've already established, that information could be biased. Or it could be fictional. We'll talk more about that too. And sometimes, even when it looks right, we can find that there is a fundamental flaw with it. So when you see the too many fingers, it's just a reminder that in all of these things, we have to have a role to play in this, and I'll show you how we do that after the break.